Hello, everyone. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. And oh boy, today was a tough one. Wow, I'm just glad I made it here. I made it on time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So, Jonathan, thank you for coming here on a Monday night. Thank you, Richard. Let's see here. Thank you, Andy. I think I saw you too. Yep. And thank you, Eva. Awesome. You all are wonderful for being here. Past couple of days have been pretty tough, and today at work was no different. So I really appreciate all of you for coming out here on a Monday night, and let's talk about smells. Now, I'm continuing my series on the five senses, taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. Last week I did taste. Today is the second one. So I'm doing obviously smell. Next week is touch. Then I'm going to hearing, and then I'll close it out with sight. So we've all gotten on an elevator and been metaphorically punched in the face with an odor. It could be the rank smell of sweat from someone who just finished a workout, or say someone who hasn't showered in quite a few days. When I lived in an apartment complex, there was a gym on the ground floor, and I would frequently walk into the elevator and either smell somebody just leaving the gym or smell that somebody had just come from the gym and was no longer in there. So the smell lingered well after they were gone. It could also be that sweet yet overbearing perfume. There were plenty of cases where it was a Friday or Saturday night, and again, no one was in the elevator, but there was definitely a strong scent, whether that was cologne or somebody's flowery perfume. It could be a savory smell. So we just passed, could be a savory smell. We just happened to go through Thanksgiving in the US, and wandering on the streets, there are plenty of incredible smells from somebody bringing a roasted turkey to a potluck dinner. Now, as soon as we enter a new place, we are often accosted by the smells of past and present. Oddly enough, I can anecdotally state that smell helped me sell my books, or at least strike conversations with people and strangers at Balticon. Adriana, my wife, created 6 different scents to represent characters and settings within Falling Through. And if you look at the thumbnail, that's what that is a picture of. There's a picture of 6 different bottles of perfume, and then there's a picture of my dog hiding behind a flower bush. But that ambiance tool of those 6 different smells can set the mood for various readers and for various scenes within my stories. And that's not something that's typical, so that helped me stand out more. And whether or not somebody bought a book, it was definitely a conversation starter to meet new people at Balticon. Merely having the perfume bottles next to my books start up plenty of conversations. Now, just a slight tangent there, because we're talking about my books, Falling Through and Expanding Cracks. Today is the 4th. Yeah, today's the 4th. So they are currently free as ebooks. So you can get Falling Through and Expanding Cracks right now for free. And I am going to break out of here really quickly to go to Amazon and get those links for you all, because I'm really excited. The reason why I'm doing this is, first of all, every 90 days I can do a promotion like this, but also this is, or I guess yesterday, thank you, Richard, for Falling Through. And we got Expanding Cracks right here. Yeah, so Expanding Cracks just turned 1 as of yesterday. And in honor of that, I'm doing a promotion where both my books are now free for a total of 5 days, but that will expire on Thursday the 7th? No, Thursday the 8th. I should be able to do math here. No, I was right. Thursday the 7th. So it's from Sunday the 3rd through Thursday the 7th. And yes, Jonathan, unfortunately, Axe Body Spray is still a thing. I walk in a busy area, and there are definitely people who have strong smells. And I'm actually going to go into that in just a few minutes in terms of how we can write that into our characters. So How can we write in a way to incorporate smells into our stories without trapping readers in an elevator with smells strong enough to choke us? Well, these are my 5 tips to subtly infuse smells into our stories. These can also be used to hit them over the head with descriptions for story reasons, like the bog of eternal stench from Labyrinth. If anybody remembers the movie Labyrinth, lots of fun, great Jim Henson movie. I feel like it's Jim Henson. But yeah, it also had uh, David, David Bowie. Yeah, David Bowie starred in it, and Jennifer Connelly. Wonderful movie. Really kind of weird, odd puppet movie for kids, but love the tone, love the plot, love the characters. Anyways, number 1, smell attracts and repels. Arguably one of the most important reasons people are attracted to each other is smell. There are studies showing that, where a pleasant smell is welcoming, while a harsh one makes me want to spend as little time with the person as possible. I walked in my kitchen, caught a whiff of something awful, and proceeded to drop whatever I was doing to clean every surface and remove anything which might be the cause of the smell. Similarly, smells warn us of danger. On one of my birthdays, I ignored my sense of smell, or rather, didn't check the milk when I used it a few years back to make myself birthday pancakes. Long story short, that was a rough few days after my birthday. And now I do the sniff check every time for milk when I'm cooking with it, because there weren't lumps in there. It didn't seem like it had gone bad, but a simple sniff check would have solved a lot of problems. And it's more than that. I sniff my tomatoes to know which ones are the most ripe and the perfect to use when I'm cooking my breakfast omelets. And going back to that Axe comment, Axe body spray, when I'm walking my dog, I pass a lot of people on the street. And when I'm distracted with my dog or my phone, I can sometimes smell people from a good distance away without looking. When a smell lingers on a windy day and the open outdoors and I have to walk through it, I do absolutely judge the people who use whatever that strongly. Whether that's, well, all right, I'll tell a story. So regularly when I go for my runs, it is 6 a.m. There is nobody out in the streets, and I routinely smell weed. Which, no judgment if you smoke, but like, again, there's nobody out there. There's no cars passing me, which means that smell is coming from somebody's house, which is a good 50 to 100 feet away from where I'm standing. And for a smell to expand outward, that tells me that the entire house has to smell like weed. Like, there is no way possible that I can smell it that strongly in the morning. And so for somebody to wake up at 6 in the morning, or probably before then, and to do that, yeah, I mean, I'll probably judge you a little bit, because, what the hell. Anyways, that's judgment is true whether it's a good or bad smell. And what's worse is when there's an initially bad smell and I can tell that a person has tried to douse themselves in cologne, like Axe body spray, to try and mask it. So what actually happens when I'm walking by with my dog is I'm hit with both smells, which often conflict with each other and leave kind of a repugnant air around a given person who, you know, clearly has their own vices depending on what the smell is, and then they're trying to mask whatever they're doing. So you want a villain in your story or a corrupt character? Trying to mask a vile smell with flowers would be a perfect description for the oblivious, slimy, and selfish character failing to cover up their limitations or their detriments or their bad qualities. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think something like that happened with President Snow in Hunger Games, where he always smelled like flowers, or he always had flowers on him or something like that, and he was trying to cover up the consumption from his breath because he was coughing up blood, or he was there was something weird where he was trying to cover up some illness. Oh, hey, Laura, thank you, thank you. And yeah, Jonathan, definitely, showers are encouraged. I understand if you're coming from a gym, if you're going for a run, whatever, there are definitely reasons, but Eh. Oh, also calling the police doesn't really work because I think weed is legal here. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I'm in Virginia, just outside Washington D.C., so the law is kind of very wildly. It wouldn't surprise me if Virginia is no on weed and Washington D.C. is not. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, no judgment for smoking weed. Lots of judgment for me being able to smell weed from like 100 yards away when it's leaking out of a house. So those are just my own personal thoughts. Yeah, that's what I thought. It is legal in Virginia. Cool. Not that I smoke weed. I don't do it anymore, but I had government jobs, so I just kind of got in the habit of not using weed. So pretty boring life on my part. Anyways, number 2, we want to convey background or motivation. How much does your character even observe the smells around them? What smells do they pick up on? What excites them? What do they notice most and first? The way a character smells something, and especially how they react to it, tells readers a lot about them and their history. Scent is the sense most closely tied to memories. When I walk through woods and catch a whiff of fir trees, I'm taken back to that one specific bad experience with gin, and I reflexively gag. This can be used to create mystery. Why is one character wandering seemingly aimlessly through an empty hall? Well, they smelled sweet caramel and baked buttery goodness of an apple pie and are looking for the source to satisfy their hunger. There's a lot that we can share about a character based on what they notice first or how they react to whatever smell. Whether they cringe, whether they wander through the halls, whether they hunt down that smell just to figure out where it comes from, whether they clean their entire kitchen. I mean, those are all very telling reactions. Number 3, short and sweet. Scents set the scene. Is there a smell hanging in the air? Describe it, because copper smells can hint at blood or a dead body before it's discovered. In this way, scents can reveal things a character may otherwise be unaware of. It's a quick way to show a detail about a scene without telling us what's happening. That's why this point is short and sweet. Number 4, complexity. There's rarely one scent that's present at any given moment. One scent might be the most powerful, but there should be undercurrents or contrasting smells along the way. Going back to walking through the woods, there could be musty earthen smells of decaying leaves along with fresh scents of moisture clinging to tree stumps. Or there could be layers underneath that of a sweet fragrance of sap leaking from a tree. Like the taste combinations from last week, a meal, a person, a room, whatever should contain a multitude of smells, and they should be as unique as a fingerprint. The tiny woods that I go through and turn around in around here smell a lot different when I'm walking my dog. They smell a lot different than the woods that I'm walking through where I grew up in. Sorry, the woods near my house now smell a lot different than the woods where I grew up in. And those woods smell a lot different than the lush overgrowth of the Shenandoah Valley where I went to college. And obviously they smell a lot different than the redwood forests in California or the Rocky Mountains up on top of the Rocky Mountains. Those forests smell completely different too. So it's very unique way, and you can be as descriptive and have as much fun with this as you want. So that way you can make a specific scene much different than any other scene that is seemingly similar at first glance. And lastly, number 5, metaphors and comparisons. Use this one sparingly. It can be a great shortcut to conserve word space. For example, the day was so hot, the concrete road started melting, spraying a tar smell throughout the neighborhood. Rather than describing the tars or the concrete's toxic fumes, I used a shorthand which is easily identifiable to many people. However, that line felt a little bland when I was writing it. Worse, if people don't know the reference, if somebody doesn't know what tar smells like, or insert your example here, then there'll be a loss for the scene, the emotions, the sense that I'm trying to convey. Going back to that example, an alternative might be the day was so hot the concrete road started melting, clogging the neighborhood air with a thick, burning smell that turned my thoughts foggy. So it's a whole bunch of different things. We have the thick, burning smell. We have it's making it difficult to think. And I have definitely experienced that one where a smell is so toxic and painful. A smell is so toxic that it's actually causing me pain to smell it. Ooh, spicy. Yeah, yeah. Let's. Interesting. So yeah, if you're writing a romance or if you're writing something spicy, you can always indicate a potential adult moment happening with people who are not supposed to be involved together, where somebody smells like a person who's not their spouse's deodorant. It's ironic that my wife is the one who suggested that, but that is a great, great point. I know she's also on a kick of a whole bunch of Netflix shows, so it kind of makes sense. But anyways, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up as we are winding down. So Snow wears the flower of the Hunger Games to smell the blood of his mouth. Yeah. So he has like consumption or he had some disease and he's using the smell of a flower on his in his breast pocket to hide that smell. And it's only when people come up close to him that it gets revealed. So let's see. Yeah, exactly. And calling the cops around here, it's only if somebody's in danger. There's a non emergency hotline that I guess we could call, but again, weed's legal in Virginia, so yeah. I have called. Actually, I haven't called the non-emergency hotline when I've cleaned up human poop, but fun times in the neighborhood. Let's see here. All right, fair enough. Love affair could be legitimate. All right, good to know. Okay, well, those were my 5 tips to writing smells. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me on Running to Write. I will see you next week where we will be talking all about touch, and I will be trying not to make everything turn into a bad Bloodhound Gang reference. Now, I'm not going to ask you to describe some of the regular things you smell because I'm sure at least one of you will make a fart joke, but feel free to comment how you use smells in your own stories here. Instead, you can also let me know the pleasant smells you add to your stories or what smells best describe your favorite characters. There was going back to the smells for my story, we have some ancient rulers who smell like a collection of spices. I think there's some vanilla and tobacco in there, as well as Tracy, who's one of the main characters, and she's got a very flowery smell. So Adriana kind of created some of these. She created all of the smells, obviously, but there were a lot of interesting takes on them. Actually, sorry, Tracy has more of a sweet smell to her, so it's not necessarily flowery. I think it might also be a bit sugary. I have it all written down exactly what each of the smells smell like, but there were 2 different forests that my characters go to, and they smell distinctly different, which is really cool and really impressive that Adriana was able to pull that off because there's an ancient wooded area that smells a lot different than, say, a modern forest outside of somebody's backyard. And going back to those smells, it could be sugar clinging to some baked good in your story, or maybe it's gasoline if the character's a mechanic, or some unidentifiable smell if they're from another world entirely. Now, I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Running to Write, and I will try doing a better job of posting more things. This week, it is all about these 2 books because they are free. So go out and get your copies if you haven't already. Also, I just sent out my monthly newsletter. So if you want to get a fun year-end recap when I post and send it out on January 3rd, don't forget to sign up for the Running to Write monthly newsletter for regular updates on my sword musings, pitfalls, and lessons learned. The link is in the description below. And see you next time. Until then, utilize our noses and add more smells into our stories. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And yes. Okay, sorry. Tracy's smell was a strawberry vanilla scent with cedar backbone to tamp down the sweetness. Okay. So it was very sweet, but there was also things in there to try and mute it down. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think there's definitely an audience for Bloodhound Gang still, and fragrance is a language. So there's flowery scents can describe a specific person's emotions, or you can go the Jane Austen route. I think there's a lot of flowery metaphors in there where a person is hiding meaning in plain sight by how they're describing a given smell. And yes, RC Scott, thank you for joining and writing about smells. I don't know exactly what you're writing about today, but cool. Well, anyways, that's it for tonight. So I will see you all next week. Take care and have a good one.